Thank you for joining us today for another intriguing episode of History Amnesia. Today we'll discuss the Hasinai, a branch of the Caddo from East Texas. The word Caddo comes from the French abbreviation of Caddo Hadacho, a word meaning real chief or real Caddo. This makes one wonder if there was a fake chief or fake Caddo. Perhaps there was another group that came in that claimed to be Caddo, but really wasn't, or not pure blood. The Caddo were divided into groups such as the Hasinai, Caddo Hadacho, and Natchitoches confederacies. These confederacies are basically kin-based affiliated groups or bands of Caddo communities. The Hasinai groups lived in the Natchez and Angelina River valleys in East Texas. This is the group we're focusing on today. According to the Texas State Historical Association, archaeological investigations of many prehistoric Caddoan sites indicate that Caddo communities were widely dispersed throughout the major and minor stream valleys of the Caddoan area by around AD 800. The roots of these peoples can be traced to Forche Malign or woodland period culture groups that began to settle down in small communities to manufacture ceramics for cooking and storage of food, and to develop a horticultural way of life based on the raising of tropical cultigens, corn, squash and later beans, and certain native plants. Here again we see this is the time period when they began to settle down. No longer nomadic, they began to manufacture ceramics. Could this have been the influence of the Welsh? By 800 AD, they would have been 3 to 4 generations in their new homeland. And in order to survive, they had to have taken on the ways of their native allies, blending cultures, exchanging ideas, as well as intermarrying along the way. However, they were still recognized as being different. Different from the real Caddo, perhaps. Just looking at the word Hasinai makes me think of Mount Sinai in Egypt. We know their linguistic heritage derives from groups including the Arikara, Pawnee, Wichita, Kitsai, and Caddo Indians. The term Hasinai or its variations, Hasinai, Hasinai, Asina, Hasinai, or Iones, which means our own people. So were these quote our own people and quote the Welsh descendants? It makes one wonder. A site found and studied called the George Davis site was an early Caddoan site dating from 780 to 1260 AD. This site appeared as a major hub for the regional center with a substantial residential population. At the Davis site was a village composed of oval to circular-shaped houses that were probably covered with mats or grass thatch like later Hasinai dwellings. However, nothing is mentioned about whether or not these could have been modified forms of the woodland period longhouses found further east. The Texas State Historical Association also stated that, quote, the temple and interment mounds and the lack of them elsewhere indicate that this was a politico-religious ceremonial center that was accompanied by a hierarchy within the social system. These people planned such centers, directed construction, utilized them, and then were given elaborate burials. The evidence available suggests a theocracy, end quote. Just a reminder, the definition of a theocracy is a system of government where priests rule in the name of a god. So, we know the name of their priest was called Zenesi, pronounced Chenesi. Is the name of their god attached to the name of their priest? Some tribal cultures use XY to describe, quote, the people, and XIN for, quote, the people of. So, we have the people of Esi, ESI, Esi. Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett have stated the Qumric calling of the name Jesus is Iesu pronounced Yessi, and that Iesu or Yesu, Iesu, is almost identical to the Hebrew Yeshu. Is it that far-fetched to say their God was Jesus? Were they the people of Jesus? One observation has to do with their funerary practices. The Caddo seem to share a Shiva of sorts type ritual with the Jewish culture. Now, if the story is true about Joseph of Arimathea coming to Wales after the crucifixion of Jesus, and was the first to establish Christianity in Britain, then it would stand to reason that he brought with him the traditions of Judaism. 5 centuries later, when the Welsh came to America and brought their religion with them, they could have passed these traditions, rituals, and beliefs onto their descendants. Though they may not be exactly the same, they are similar. The Caddo seem to have a mourning period of 6 days. The ancient Hebrew Shiva, Shiva meaning 7, is a 7-day period. Community support was paramount in both cultures. The Caddo people brought food, water, fire, and tobacco to the grave. While the Hebrews did not prepare food, the community carefully prepared kosher meals and brought it to the mourners. This mourning period is curiously common in both cultures. And, as with many religions, they both believed in a creator. The Hasinai believed in a creator whom they called the Caddo, or Great Chief. Unlike, or perhaps like the Hebrews, they had other gods or deities whom they called upon for help in their daily lives. The Caddo maintained an elaborate ceremonial religion centered around a main fire temple cared for by the Chinese. Konanisi, two boys, acted as intermediaries between the Chinese and the Caddo Ayo. Intermediaries in the Jewish community are seen as playing a role in the divine plan, or in facilitating communication with God. The Caddo were and still are an amazing people. We've much to learn from them, and we'll explore their culture more next time on History Amnesia. Go ahead and click that like and subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that next time a video is posted, you'll be notified. Thanks for watching!